Welcome back, everybody, to Olympus Astrology, and we are going to take a look today at the chart of Taylor Swift. Now, this is a classic royal chart or celebrity chart, whatever you want to call it, a chart of big success and fame and money and all the boring stuff. So it's a great example to understand the foundations of ancient astrology. It's extremely important to have a good foundation, right? A lot of astrology is so psychological, it really is victim to the confirmation bias. But if you have a kind of astrology which is telling you the material circumstances of a person, whether they're a beggar or they're a celebrity or they're a king or they're a middle class person or an upper middle class or lower middle, this sort of, yes, it's mundane, and sure, it's not particularly elevating, but it is important to know that you're on the right track with your reading. Because if you can look at the chart and say, oh, well, look, this looks like a person born into a wealthy family. And then if they say, well, yeah, I was, boom, Bob's your uncle, then you're done. You're done. You're not done, but you're on the right track, So it's extremely, extremely important. And I use it all the time when I'm in session. I look at the chart and I ask somebody, well, look, this, I'm honest with them. And I say, this is what the chart looks like. What kind of situation were you born into? And sometimes charts are very complicated, I've had quite a few people who they're born into low class, and then they're put up for adoption, and then they're adopted by millionaires. And so that makes charts very rich, to say the least, very intense, very deep, with a lot to be gained from looking into them, because the astrology is so extreme on so many different sides. So here we can dive into the chart of Taylor. If you've been following me for a while, you will spot a few markers of success here. There's some really, really big ones. The most obvious of which being up here in the top left corner, the Jupiter-Moon conjunction there in the 8th house. So the ascendant, I know these charts are confusing for a lot of people, and that's okay, but take a moment, take a breath, don't freak out. You can read it. It's not that different to what you know. So the Moon-Jupiter conjunction's up here in the 8th house. The ascendant is in the crown of Scorpio in sidereal. Everything I'm doing is Babylonian sidereal astrology. Well, that's actually not true. I'm doing a mixture of everything, but when I generally talk about the signs, I'm talking about the sidereal signs, the Babylonian sidereal. We will also look at the tropical signs here, because there is some really interesting stuff to dive into there. But anyway, for the sake of the video, she is Scorpio rising here with the ascendant in the crown in the first few degrees, with Mars exactly rising. So that's big, really, really, really big. No wonder she's so kind of slim and fit. Now, she was born at night. So again, if you've been following me, you know that Mars at night in an angle, any angle, especially the ascendant and the MC, at night Mars is very, very lucky in those places. He's not superstar lucky. If you have a night Mars rising, you're not going to be at Taylor Swift level. He's not quite that good, but it is a weight. It is a weight towards the material success, shall we say, of the chart. Now, the Moon-Jupiter conjunction is really what takes the cake. This is what makes her who she is. And there's a few subtle details, because, there's Moon-Jupiter conjunctions and then there's Moon-Jupiter conjunctions, right? Some are good, some are not so good. And that all depends on the quote-unquote sign, but that's very important to not get too attached to, because it's very subtle. Let's just say the sign with a lot of caveats, which we'll talk about, and the phase of the moon. So if the moon is full, and you'll read this in a lot of ancient texts with Jupiter and the moon, if the moon is waxing and bright, the books will say the person will be a grand king, and they will have immaculate wealth beyond the grandeur of their parents, you know, and in every way they will be surpassing their forebears and things like that. So when it's waxing and bright, so when it's full, basically, when it's full and when it's growing towards being even more full, this is the best moon Jupiter, because the waxing moon is connected with daytime and the full moon is connected with daytime, and Jupiter is a day planet. So they have the most affinity when the moon is full and waxing. Jupiter is also, of course, moist and warm, and the moon is kind of moist and wet and cool and wet with a little bit of heat, especially when she's full. The moon is warmer when she's full. When she's full, she represents bubbling water, boiling, starting to boil. Maybe not that hot, but warm water. So their humors are very, very similar. Perhaps we could even say the waning moon, or the waning and dim moon with Venus, is a bit better because Venus is moist and cold. But that's a slightly different thing because the invisible moon is also just unlucky generally. So it's also not just about the humors there. But anyway, you get the idea here with the moon Jupiter and their link. So if the moon is new, the new moon conjunct with Jupiter, this is very unlucky. That's a disaster generally, because the new moon is like Saturn, and it's quite a nasty Saturn, really. It really constricts everything. Normally a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is actually very lucky, but Jupiter with the invisible moon, definitely not. We can look a bit, maybe there's something in the text about that, actually. We can look at that in another video, but for the sake of education, here is the moon. Here is my generalized take. So what do we see with Taylor? The sun is in Sagittarius, around 25 degrees. Must be, Scorpio, not Sagittarius. Scorpio, 25 degrees. And she was born the day after a full moon. So the moon is still full. It's waning. Very, 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 very slightly waning. But it is waning. But the main thing is that it's really, really full. It's 97% full, probably, something like that. So very bright moon. And the moon is here in Gemini just after the full moon. You see this moon sun symbol in the horns of Taurus. That is the full moon, the point of the full moon. So the moon is just past there, so she's still full but waning a little bit. It's nighttime, so this is a very good time for the moon. And Jupiter is the moon is applying a conjunction to Jupiter, so the moon is approaching him. The moon moves more quickly, so the moon is what's going to be applying or separating from Jupiter. Jupiter moves very slowly, and the moon will apply or separate from him. So here we have the applying conjunction of a nighttime moon with Jupiter. So that's very lucky already, but it doesn't end there. Where is this conjunction taking place? Number one, the house. Number two, the sign. Because if you look at, let's start with the sign, because that's the most interesting. If you look at the chart, it says that this conjunction is taking place in Gemini. Sidereal Gemini, right in the feet of Gemini. Actually, this 14th degree, this is to do with the god of fear. This is generally not such an easy degree, but that's not so important for looking at this at the moment. So it's taking place in Gemini. Now, what's interesting about the sidereal Gemini that you may not know, or if you've done your homework, you know very well, Gemini in our age, in this current age, and for the last maybe 1,000 years, and for a few hundred more, Gemini is the exaltation of Jupiter, not Cancer. Well, that's where we need the caveat. If you use tropical astrology, then Cancer is the exaltation of Jupiter. The exaltations are linked with the tropical zodiac, not the sidereal. So when Jupiter is in Gemini in our age, so for anybody born around this age, unless you're looking at the chart of Plato or something, or Alexander the Great, then this doesn't really mean, it isn't super important to know. But just to know that the sidereal Gemini is where Jupiter has exaltation, meaning that he's very, very strong. The exaltation is where the planet offers its most good. It's the best. So, and that's it. You can have a very good Mars, let's say a night Mars on the MC, or actually keep with the theme, I'll keep with Jupiter. You can have a daytime Jupiter on the MC, and if that is in Gemini, it will be even better. It will be really, really positive. But if that Jupiter is in Capricorn, where he has the least kind of dignity, or actually the opposite place of his exaltation, really, which would maybe even be Sagittarius, although that's a little complicated. I only notice it with the sidereal Capricorn, so it's a whole other topic. If Jupiter is in Capricorn, even the day Jupiter on the MC may not fully manifest at, normally that would be a upper middle class birth, wealthy family, prestigious parents, good luck in their life, success, happiness, all these good things. And if it's in Capricorn, not so much, or it's delayed. Well, definitely it's delayed. I mean, day Jupiter on the MC, nobody's getting in the way of that, but Capricorn will taint it and get in the way of it for a time. So this Moon-Jupiter conjunction is happening right in Gemini, and you see it, the moon is right on that red dot in Gemini. That red dot is the summer solstice. And the summer solstice is the exaltation of Jupiter. And in the tropical zodiac, the summer solstice is the first degree of Cancer. That's why Cancer, quote unquote, is the exaltation of Jupiter, using the most ancient calendar, the Babylonian system of astrology. So we have Jupiter in exaltation at the summer solstice in Gemini, conjunct with the moon at night, the full moon. So very powerful. Well, it's a night Jupiter, so it's not a very powerful Jupiter, but it's in exaltation, which is a big omen, very big omen. And the moon is there applying the conjunction. Now, the last thing to look at is that it is in the 8th house. The 8th house, which is a bad house for every single planet, except one. And that one planet is the moon. The moon is the only planet that is good in the 8th house, and it is only good at night and when it is full. So, and they say that when the moon at night and full is in the 8th house, it is similar with Jupiter in the 11th, which represents the fulfillment of dreams, the fulfillment of hopes, and accessing high society. That's Jupiter in the 11th in the day. So, as you can see, there's a lot of mounting omens here. This is a really great example chart in astrology. We should talk, maybe I'll do another video talking more about her personal life and the spiritual things behind it. But this is a really great example of a royal chart, a celebrity chart with this Moon-Jupiter conjunction with other qualifying factors that enhance its power. Because certainly, there's many Moon-Jupiter conjunction charts out there. Not all of them are mega celebrities. It depends on these other qualifying factors, the phase of the moon, the house position, the time of day, is it daytime or nighttime? Is the conjunction in application or separation? And I know all this is complicated if you haven't studied astrology quite deeply, but here it is for those who are ready. So that's going to be the end of that one. I will do a part 2 to this one where we will talk about her spiritual interests, which is a very cool story, and more on her perhaps personal life. Not that I know very much about Taylor Swift's personal life, so I'm not an expert on that, even though maybe I wish I was. So stay tuned for that one. I will upload that probably the day after this video. Now, if you like my content and you want to see more like this and go even deeper, you're really thirsty for this knowledge of ancient astrology. I know I was back in the day when I was looking for it. Go check out my Patreon. I'll put the link in my description. I am doing already, much longer form content there. So you'll get 10-minute videos sort of on YouTube, 15 minutes maybe. And then I will do much bigger versions of these on Patreon, which will give you the full picture of ancient astrology. And it's $15 a month. So you budget your way, and I will see you on the other side. Bye-bye, my friends.